The air in the dining room was so thick with tension you could have cut it with the electric carving knife my brother-in-law was holding. The smell of overcooked turkey and expensive cloying perfume filled my nose. I was sitting at the kids' table, a card table set up in the corner of the dining room, even though I'm 32 years old. My sister, Sarah, had insisted. She said there just wasn't enough room at the main mahogany table for everyone. And since I didn't have a husband or a +1 to validate my seat, I belonged with the children. I was quietly sipping my water, trying to tune out the conversation, when my 8-year-old nephew Braden tugged on my sleeve. He had gravy smeared on his chin and looked up at me with those big, innocent eyes that kids use right before they destroy you. The room was relatively quiet. Everyone was waiting for the toast. Braden's voice rang out like a bell. "Auntie Elena," he chirped. "Why did Mommy say you're the family failure?" Time stopped. My sister, Sarah, froze mid-sip of her Chardonnay. Her husband, Mark, the self-proclaimed alpha of the family, let out a snort that he quickly tried to disguise as a cough. My mother looked down at her plate, pretending to be fascinating by the green beans. Braden wasn't done. She said, "You're 32 and you have no husband and no babies and you drive a ugly car because you're too stubborn to get a real job. She said you're what's the word? A cautionary tale." I slowly placed my glass down on the wobbly card table. I looked across the room at Sarah. Her face was flushing a deep, splotchy crimson, clashing with her sequined dress. She offered a high-pitched, nervous laugh. "Oh, kids," she squeaked. "They have such wild imaginations. Eat your stuffing, Braden." I didn't blink. I didn't scream. I just felt a cold, calm glacier settle in my chest. This was it. The moment I had been waiting for. "Is that right, Sarah?" I asked, my voice low but carrying effortlessly across the room. "Is that the narrative we're going with? That I'm the failure?" They didn't know that the phone sitting next to my plate was the key to a kingdom they couldn't even dream of. They didn't know that the ugly car outside was a choice, not a necessity. And they certainly didn't know that the failure was about to foreclose on their entire reality. Let's rewind. You need to understand how we got here. I have always been the black sheep, but not the cool kind with tattoos and a motorcycle. The confusing kind. My sister, Sarah, is the golden child. She followed the script perfectly. She was prom queen. She went to the state university, joined the right sorority, married Mark, a guy who works in commercial real estate and talks louder than everyone else in the room, and popped out 2 kids by 28. To my parents, Sarah is the epitome of success. She lives in a massive, cookie-cutter McMansion in a gated community called The Oaks. She drives a white Range Rover. She posts photos of her perfect life on Instagram with captions like "number blessed" and "number boy mom." Then, there's me, Elena. 5 years ago, I did the unthinkable. I dropped out of a prestigious MBA program. My parents were horrified. They told me I was throwing my life away. Sarah told me I was unstable and clearly having a quarter-life crisis. I didn't drop out to party. I dropped out because I had developed a proprietary code for supply chain logistics using AI. I co-founded a tech startup in a garage cliché. I know, but true. For 3 years, I was a ghost. I worked 20-hour days. I missed birthdays. I missed Christmases. I poured every penny I had into the business. During that time, I was broke. I drove a 2010 Honda Civic with a dent in the bumper. I wore the same 3 hoodies. And my family loved it. They loved pitying me. It made them feel superior. Every time I showed up to a family gathering in my worn-out sneakers, Sarah would give me this sad, patronizing smile. She'd say things like, "Oh, Elena, are you still trying to make that little computer thing work? Mark can probably get you a receptionist job at his firm. You know, just to get you some benefits. At your age, you really need dental." Mark would chime in, swirling his scotch. "Yeah, sweetie. Business is a man's game. It's brutal. You're too soft. You need a husband to take care of you, not a startup." I never corrected them. I just nodded and took the emotional beating. But 2 years ago, everything changed. My little computer thing was acquired by a major logistics conglomerate. The payout was substantial. I'm talking mid-8 figures. I didn't run out and buy a Ferrari. I didn't buy a mansion. I reinvested. I diversified. I started a venture capital firm for female founders. My life is incredibly luxurious, but it's quiet luxury. I wear the Row and Loro Piana clothes that cost $2,000, but look like plain t-shirts to people who don't know fashion. I live in a penthouse in the city, but my family has never visited because they think I live in a studio apartment in a bad neighborhood. I kept the Honda Civic for family visits. Why? Because I wanted to know who they really were. I wanted to see if they loved me, or if they only loved success. And over the last 2 years, the answer became painfully clear. They didn't just dislike my perceived failure. They needed it. My struggle was the fuel for their ego. Sarah needed me to be the sad spinster aunt, so she could feel like the successful matriarch. If I told them I was a multimillionaire, they wouldn't be happy for me. They would be jealous. They would feel entitled to my money. They would say I got lucky. So, I stayed silent. I played the role. But this Thanksgiving was different. I had done some digging recently. I found out that Mark's empire wasn't as solid as he claimed. And Sarah's perfect life was financed by credit cards and loans. I walked into that house knowing I held all the cards. I just didn't expect them to force me to play them so early. The day began with a text from Sarah. Dinner is at 4. Please try to dress appropriately, Elena. Mark's boss might stop by for a drink later, and we don't want you looking like a hobo. Maybe wear a dress? Try to look like you're trying. I looked down at my outfit. I was wearing a cashmere turtleneck that cost more than Sarah's wedding dress, and vintage Levi's that were tailored to perfection. But to Sarah, no sequins meant poor. I drove the Honda to the Oaks. The driveway was packed. Mark's leased Mercedes, Sarah's leased Range Rover, and my parents' Buick. I parked my rattly little car at the very end of the driveway, blocking the view of their precious manicured lawn. When I walked in, the assault on my senses and my dignity began immediately. "Elena!" Sarah shouted from the kitchen. She didn't hug me. She just looked me up and down, her lip curling. "Is that what you're wearing?" "It's Thanksgiving. Not a laundry day. It's cashmere, Sarah," I said calmly, placing a bottle of wine on the counter. Mark walked in, wearing a suit that was a little too tight, a Rolex that I was 90% sure was a fake, and a smirk that I wanted to slap off his face. "Cashmere blend, maybe?" Mark laughed, slapping me on the back a little too hard. "Hey, thanks for the wine. We'll use it for cooking. I've got the good stuff opened in the living room." He picked up the bottle I brought. It was a Chateau Margaux, vintage 2015. It retails for about $700. He treated it like it was $2 chuck. I walked into the living room. My mother was there, holding a glass of sherry. "Elena," she sighed, the way one sighs at a terminal diagnosis. "You look tired. Are you eating? I worry about you living alone in the city. It's so dangerous for a single woman. Have you met anyone? Any prospects?" "I'm happy, Mom. I'm busy with work." "Work," she scoffed. "Consulting? That's just a code word for unemployed, isn't it? You know, your cousin Jenny just got married. She's 26. She's pregnant. She has a life, Elena. You're 32. Your eggs are, well, they aren't getting any younger." "I froze my eggs last year, Mom. I'm fine." Mark burst into the room, laughing. "Freezing eggs? Sounds expensive. Who paid for that? Did you take out a loan? Or is that what the consulting pays for?" "You know, Elena, if you spent half as much time at the gym as you do on your computer, maybe you wouldn't need to freeze eggs. You'd catch a husband." The misogyny was so casual, so comfortable for them. They didn't even realize they were being cruel. They just thought they were being honest. We moved to the dining room. The table was set with gold chargers and crystal glasses. It looked like a Pinterest board threw up. Sarah directed traffic. "Mom and Dad here, Mark and I at the heads, Brayden and Sophie here. And Elena." She pointed to the card table in the corner, draped with a plastic tablecloth. "You can sit there. We're just a little tight on space." There were 6 seats at the main table. There were 6 people. But Sarah had placed her oversized handbag on the empty chair next to her. "My bag is Chanel," she said, catching my eye. "I don't want it on the floor. You understand, right? You're used to smaller spaces." I sat at the card table. I unfolded the flimsy paper napkin. I listened to them brag for 20 minutes. Mark bragged about his deals. "I'm telling you, crypto is dead. It's all about NFTs now. I'm thinking of dropping 10 grand on this monkey art. It's the future. Elena, you probably don't understand the blockchain, but it's basically digital gold. I bit my tongue. I literally own a stake in the platform he was talking about. Sarah bragged about the house. We're thinking of redoing the pool house. The marble we imported from Italy just isn't the right shade of white. It's too gray. It depresses me. We need Calicotta gold. It's going to cost 50,000, but you can't put a price on peace of mind, right? My father nodded approvingly. You two are doing so well. We're so proud. You've really built a legacy. He didn't look at me. Not once. And then, the turkey was served. Dry. Flavorless. And then, Brayden spoke. Why did Mommy say you're the family failure? We are back in the silence. The air conditioning hummed, sounding like a jet engine in the quiet room. Sarah tried to recover. Elena, don't be dramatic. I was just venting. You have to admit, your life isn't exactly traditional. We worry about your stability. We just want you to be secure, like us. Secure, I repeated, tasting the word. Like you. I stood up. My chair scraped loudly against the floor. Sit down, Elena, Mark commanded, his voice dropping an octave. Don't make a scene. You're upsetting Sarah. I'm not making a scene, Mark. I'm clarifying the data. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my iPhone. You guys love talking about success. You measure it in husbands, babies, and leased cars. You think I'm a failure because I don't have those things. But since you brought up the topic of security and finances, I think it's time for a little transparency. I tapped my screen. Mark, your smart TV is on the same Wi-Fi network, right? I'm just going to cast something. What? No, sit down. Mark stood up, his face turning red. But it was too late. The massive 75-inch screen above the fireplace flickered. The image of the football game disappeared. In its place was a dashboard. A banking dashboard. It was the main overview of my primary holding company. The numbers were in bold white font against a dark background. Total assets, $38,450,200. My mother squinted. What? Is that a phone number? No, Mom, I said, my voice ice cold. That is my liquid net worth, as of this morning's market close. Sarah gasped. It was a wet, choking sound. Is that real? Is that a simulator? You're hacking. It's not a hack, Sarah. It's the proceeds from the sale of my company. The one you said was a quarter-life crisis. The one Mark said was cute. I swiped left on my phone. The image on the TV changed. It was a legal document. A deed of trust. Now, this, I said, walking slowly toward the main table. This is interesting. Mark, you mentioned business is a man's game. So, being a businessman, you surely understand how distressed debt works. Mark was pale. He looked like he was going to vomit. He knew what was on the screen. Turn it off, he whispered. Elena, turn it off, now. No, I said. I don't think I will. I pointed to the screen. This is the mortgage note for 424 Oakwood Drive, this house. I was looking for investment properties recently, and my broker flagged a bundle of high-risk, non-performing loans. Imagine my surprise when I saw my own sister's address on the list. I looked at my parents. They were staring at Mark with open mouths. Mom, Dad, I continued. Sarah and Mark haven't paid their mortgage in 5 months. They are in pre-foreclosure. The bank was about to serve them notice next week, but they won't. Thank God. Sarah breathed, clutching her pearls. You paid it? You paid it off for us. I laughed. It was a sharp, jagged sound. No, Sarah. I didn't pay it off for you. I bought the debt. I am the bank now. I leaned over the table, placing my hands on the white tablecloth, looking directly into Mark's eyes. I own this house. I own the roof over your head. I own the Calicotta gold marble you want to replace. And that Range Rover in the driveway? I ran the plates. It's leased in the company name, a company that just filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy 2 days ago. The silence now wasn't just heavy. It was absolute. It was the silence of a bomb having gone off, where everyone is checking to see if they still have limbs. So, I said, straightening up and brushing a non-existent speck of dust off my cashmere sleeve. Who is the failure exactly? The woman with $38 million in the bank? Or the couple pretending to be rich while drowning in debt, living in a house owned by the sister they mock? Mark crumbled. The alpha male facade dissolved instantly. He slumped in his chair, putting his head in his hands. Elena, he stammered, his voice shaking. We didn't know. The market turned. I was leveraging. Look, we're family. You can't hold this over us? Family, I asked. 5 minutes ago, you were telling me I needed a husband to survive. You were laughing at my poverty. You made me sit at a card table, Mark. Sarah burst into tears. Ugly, mascara running tears. I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry. We were just jealous. You were always the smart one. I wanted to feel special. Please, Elena, don't kick us out. We have the kids. You can't do this to Brayden. Don't use your son as a shield, Sarah. It's pathetic. I picked up the bottle of Chateau Margaux from the table. I'm taking this back, I said. You wouldn't appreciate the notes of tobacco and dark cherry anyway. My mother finally spoke. Her voice was trembling. Elena, daughter, surely we can discuss this. We are your parents. Yes, I said, looking at her. You are. And you sat there for years and let them belittle me. You watched them treat me like a dog, and you smiled because you liked the view from their sinking ship better than the reality of my success. I pulled a business card out of my pocket and tossed it onto Mark's dinner plate, right into the dry stuffing. That is the number of my property management firm. They handle all my tenant relations. You have 30 days to cure the default on the mortgage. If you don't, eviction proceedings begin on day 31. Elena! Sarah screamed. You can't evoke us. It's Christmas next month. Then I suggest you sell the Range Rover and the Chanel bag, Sarah. That should cover at least 2 months of arrears. Welcome to the real world. It's brutal. I turned on my heel and walked out. As I reached the front door, I heard Mark yelling at Sarah, blaming her for poking the bear. I heard the kids crying. I heard my mother trying to mediate. I walked out into the cool autumn air. It smelled like dead leaves and victory. I got into my Honda Civic. It started with a rattle. I didn't care. I drove 2 blocks away, around the corner, where my driver was waiting in my actual car, a Bentley Continental GT. I had parked the Honda there earlier and swapped keys. I left the Honda there with the keys in the ignition. I texted Sarah one last time. The Honda is parked on Elm Street. You can have it. You're going to need a car that actually runs when the repo man takes the Rover. Happy Thanksgiving. Then, I got into the back seat of my Bentley, poured myself a glass of sparkling water, and told the driver to take me to the airport. I had a flight to Tokyo to catch. It's been 6 months since that dinner. The fallout was spectacular. Mark couldn't come up with the money. My property management team, who are ruthless by the way, initiated foreclosure. They were evicted in February. They are currently living in my parents' basement. Sarah sends me long, rambling emails every week. Sometimes she begs for money. Sometimes she calls me a heartless witch. I have a filter set up so they all go directly to a folder marked trash. I haven't spoken to my parents. They chose their side a long time ago. They just didn't realize they were betting on a losing horse. As for me, I'm currently recording this from a villa in Lake Como. The view is beautiful, the pasta is fresh. And the silence? It's not awkward anymore. It's peaceful. Ladies, let this be a lesson. Never let anyone tell you that your value is tied to a ring on your finger or a baby in a crib. Success is the best revenge. And nothing, absolutely nothing, tastes as good as owning the deed to your enemy's house. So, what do you think? Was I too harsh, or did they get exactly what they deserved? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed seeing the family failure become the family landlord, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for more stories of sweet, sweet justice. Stay icy, queens.